Chapter 17 Overflow September 1979. Regulus isn't expecting his cousin to appear at the foot of his hospital bed. Not because he didn't think she would come, but because he didn't think she would come so soon. It's only been a few days since Sirius mentioned he would reach out to her. Regulus expected at least a week or two before Andromeda found the time to visit. But here she is, beautiful and vibrant as ever, with watery white eyes and a small tight-lipped smile. "Hi, Reggie," she says softly, reaching out to squeeze his ankle. He doesn't feel it. "How are you?" "Dying." Today is one of his bad days, but that's not something anyone else needs to know. "I'm fine." He pushes himself up on his hands to lean against the pillow. "A little tired? This, at least, is truthful." "I'm sure." Andromeda's gaze flicks to the jar lying near his bed. Everyone always looks at the jars. Regulus doesn't, though. Not anymore. Sirius told me about. She makes a vague gesture with her hand, and Regulus understands. There is no good ending to her sentence, so it's best not to voice any of the options. Anyway, he said he'd be here soon. He wanted to stop in the cafeteria with James and grab some food before they come up. Practice wiped them out, I think. Regulus doesn't want James here. Not today. He doesn't want Sirius here either. His head feels packed with cotton. His lungs burn with each breath, and he's tired of lugging his leg around. He was tired before, when he had full use of his limbs. Now, he's exhausted from a quick limp to the toilet and back. It's humiliating. It's terrifying. Andromeda takes a seat on the edge of his bed and fiddles with her hands in her lap. "I have a feeling why you didn't want to tell me or Teddy what's wrong, but I'm glad you did, you know?" "I didn't. Sirius did." His tone is snippy. He doesn't mean it. A little gentler, he adds. "But I'm glad Sirius told you to." A weak smile. "If it's all right, I would like to bring Ted and Dora to come visit. She's still a wee one, but I think she would like you. Ted wanted to come today, but he's busy with work." "It's all right. Next time." Sure. Silence settles between them, awkward and weighted by what Regulus imagines are 1,000 questions. He and Andromeda have never been close. Not like her and Sirius. When they were younger, Sirius gravitated towards her at family parties, while Regulus often stayed alone or under the watchful eye of their mother. It wasn't until they ran away from Grimwald that he and Andromeda had a proper, open conversation. But Regulus will always be closed off against his family tree, regardless of the ties they might break with the rest of the Blacks. Sirius said, "You won't contact your parents." "I won't," Regulus says, too quickly, too defiantly. His chin raises a bit. A challenge. They don't need to know. More than that, they don't need to be involved. I don't think they would care anyway. Andromeda's mouth turns down at the corners. "I agree they shouldn't be involved, but they might have information about whatever this curse is, or where it came from. My parents have no shortage of enemies. Anyone could have cursed us. Me." "I suppose you are right, but I think..." The door opens, and with it comes the smell of today's lunch special. Sirius and James both carry plates of food in hand, their practice gear still on, and their hair a wind-wiped mess. "Hi, Reggie." Sirius sings songs, grinning at him. "Andy, good to see you as always. I would hug you, but..." He holds up his plate of food with a sheepish shrug. "A man's gotta eat." "Hey, Reg." James looked tired, and his smile doesn't quite reach his eyes. "You want anything?" "No, I'm all right. Just ate." James glances at the tray beside his bed, untouched. "You sure?" "Positive." He gives James a look, begging him not to push. "Not today." Slowly, James nods and sits in an armchair next to Sirius. The two eat like animals after practice, desperate to replenish lost energy. Regulus remembers that hunger, though he hasn't felt it in months. He doesn't move enough or do anything. He's hardly ever hungry anymore. "Andy is going to do some research," Sirius says between mouthfuls of his sandwich. "Look into Mother's side of the family, a little into Orion's." James snorts a laugh. "Might as well be looking at the same branch then." Sirius shoves him in the ribs. "You are a pure blood too." "Not one of the sacred 28, though. The Potter family tree doesn't look like a circle. We've got variety." "Flavor." James cackles when Sirius flips his middle finger in the air. "The truth is hard to swallow. I know." Andromeda shoots them both a sharp look. "Your mother's side wasn't always mixed up with the Black family and their pure blood mania. If we got back about 3 or 4 generations, we reach the Japanese part. They have a whole pure blood society of their own, and somewhere along the way, someone married into the Black family tree. Truth be told, I have a lot of unanswered questions about it all." Sirius's brows furrows. "And Orion's side?" "In England, but before that in France. So I have 3 places to look. Plenty to find." Regulus plays with the hem of his jumper. He's always cold now, even when the weather is a bit warm or the hospital rooms are heated to offset the chilly air outside. "Why are you looking at the family trees?" Andromeda's high cheekbones cast shadows over the lower half of her face. When she tilts her head to the side, light warms her pale skin in a way it doesn't Regulus's. Not anymore. These days he looks like a corpse, pale and hollow. His cousin gathers her dark hair over her shoulder, weighing her words carefully before speaking. "Narcissa is quite good at ancestry. We still talk on occasion, even though Bellatrix would strangle her for it. Anyway, Narcissa has a lot of ancestral documents. I think she'd be happy to look." "Don't tell her," Regulus says in a rush, panicked. "There's no way Narcissa will keep something like this to herself. About me. Don't tell her, please." Andromeda shakes her head quickly, palms up in front of her in a placating gesture. No, I won't. I'll just tell her I want to know more about our family history. For Dora, I suppose. I'll make something up, but I don't think Narcissa will ask too many questions." "But with the trees?" Regulus asks again, still confused. "I have the curse now." The brain fog he has to battle constantly makes him a little slower than he'd like to be. But still, it doesn't make sense to him. Why are they going back generations? They know no one has died from this in their family before. They would have heard about it. The Blacks are many things, including paranoid. There's no way they would keep something like this secret. "I don't understand," Regulus mutters. "Merlin, he's so tired." "Well, I had an idea and I would like to explore it." "An idea?" Andromeda leans forward, her slender elbows resting on her knees. "Have you ever heard of blood curses?" Sirius and James stop chewing, their expressions slack. But Regulus remembers. "I have," he says. "I read about them once. A few months ago, when I was trying to figure out what's wrong with me. They are not common, but they can lie dormant for generations. Sometimes they never even appear at all. It's unlikely the healers will even consider it for a while because they are, well, they can be incurable. From a medical standpoint, it will be the last resort. Andromeda's smile thins again, which is I want to make it my first resort. See? Sirius says, pointing his sandwich at Andromeda. This is why I wanted you to know. You're brilliant. Hardly. I just don't think we should wait until the last possible second to research an options that plagued pure-blood families for centuries. Blood curses are common for us, considering how intermingled our bloodlines become. Anyone could have been cursed anywhere on our family tree. And you might be the one who gets the brunt of it. Regulus heaves a sigh and settles back into his pillows. Lucky me, as usual. It's a start, Reggie, Sirius offers. The possibility of an answer. I can't guarantee I'll find anything at all, but I can at least start looking into some of our history. Andromeda pats Regulus's knee. He doesn't feel it. Has anyone told Andy about it? If it helps at all, I want to do it. We'll keep your parents uninvolved, I promise. But there may still be unanswers in the family. Andromeda leaves not long after that. She promises to keep them updated, gives Regulus a somewhat awkward third pat on the leg that he still can't feel, and slips from the room. Regulus closes his eyes for a moment. Selfishly, he wishes Sirius and James would leave too. Instead, they pile their empty plates on the small table and crowd around his bed. We'll figure it out, Reggie, Sirius says, eyes bright. There's hope in them, and Regulus hates it. He hates the way their Quidditch gear smells of broom polish, leather, and wind. Hates the energy thrumming through them both. Energy he hasn't had in months. And they will find something, I'm sure of it, and then what, Sirius? Regulus erupts. It's embarrassing that his explosion sounds no more threatening than the kitten meowing for the first time, but he doesn't have the strength for more, no matter how angry and frustrated he is. And that's the problem. Then what? Tell me. Go on. Well, we'll know what it is, and if we know, then... It doesn't matter, Regulus says savagely. Of course it matters. Knowing gives us a chance. We'll put a name to it and we'll be able to look for a cure. Naming it won't cure it, Sirius. If Andy is right and it's a blood curse, it doesn't matter. Its name won't change a fucking thing. They are incurable. I'm dying, Sirius, and being able to label the thing killing me won't stop it. But I need you to stop. Just stop. I'm going to die, Sirius. There's no point to any of it. Sirius flinches with his whole body. His mouth hangs open in shock and hurt. The hope in his eyes flickers out, replaced by redness and glistening tears that threaten to spill. Don't say that, Reggie. It's the truth. Hey, James says softly. Let's just... No. Regulus cuts him off, shaking his head. No. You don't get it. You don't know what it's like. You can move and fly and play Quidditch. You have a future. I'm bedridden, broken, useless. And this thing inside me can't be cured. So accept it already. I'm dying, and there's nothing either of you can do about it. James's mouth clicked shut. He looks away, shame twisting his features. Regulus hates himself for it, but he hasn't said anything that isn't true. They can't keep acting like he's going to get better. He just... Reggie, Sirius croaks. I know, okay? But I refuse to give up. I'm going to keep fighting until the very last second because I love you. You are my brother, my little brother. And I can't accept it. I can't let you leave me to do this thing we call living alone. I don't know how to exist if I'm not your older brother, okay? So don't ask me to give up. The door clicks. Both Sirius and Regulus looks up in time to see James silently slip out of the room, leaving them alone. Regulus wants to apologize, but he can't. Right now, all he can do is drown in the pain he's feeling and pouring onto Sirius. Deep down, Regulus knows James is simply giving them privacy. He won't begrudge them this. James will come back and he'll be all smiles again. It's what makes him James, the sun in Regulus's otherwise grayish life. On the side of the bed, Sirius stands on shaky legs. He looks pale as ghost, gaunt and haunted. Regulus stares at his brother. The sound of the door closing behind James rips through their charged silence like a thunderclap. Reggie, Sirius whispers. His hands are trembling, but he's kept the tears at bay. They line his eyes in silver, hanging on by a thread. It's a plea. Sirius is begging, and Regulus doesn't have the tools to withstand his brother's pain. Regulus swallows harshly. He's just a kid. And Sirius is looking at him like he knows. He gets it. This agony is shared like most of the horrors of their lives have been. The way Sirius looks at him makes the kernel of control pulsing inside Regulus's chest crack open. He's not okay. He's never been less okay in his life. And here is the one person whose job is to shield him from it. Regulus breaks. I don't want to die, he whispers. His eyes burn. The back of his throat feels like he's swallowed acid. Sirius's eyes widen as he takes a shaky inhale. Regulus's face scrunches in a grimace and he confesses. I'm so afraid, terrified, and I'm angry. I don't want to die, Sirius. Sirius climbs into bed with him. He tugs Regulus close, holds him against his chest. Regulus keeps whispering that he isn't ready to die until the tears overwhelm him and he's sobbing against his brother's chest. He's 5 again, and his mother finally let him out of the cupboard after 2 days. He's 7, and Sirius is bloody and beaten, and Regulus has never been more scared in his life. Regulus understands what Sirius feels, because if roles were reserved, he'd do the same. He'd search the entire planet for a cure. He'd do anything in his power to save him. He understands, but he's so tired. I'm sorry, Reggie. Sirius's voice is thick, and all of his words seem to pain him. This is, if I could. I wish it was me. I wish this curse was on me. I know. I don't know how to stop fighting, Sirius admits. Regulus tilts his head up. His brother's face is full of raw determination. A man refusing to back down, no matter the odds. Regulus can't help but to love him and hate him in equal measure for it. With a deep sigh, Sirius adds, I've never known when or how to give up. I know, Regulus replies softly. He can't ask Sirius to be anything other than himself. Regulus might as well ask him to stop breathing or grow a third arm. I know. You are a fighter. Always have been. Then let me fight for you. Please. Regulus ducks his head, rests his cheek on the rough material of Sirius's magpie kit. There is a small smile in the corner of his lips, though Sirius can see it in their position. You saved my life once already, Sirius. You've been fighting for me since I was born. You rescued me from that house and those people. Every ounce of my happiness has been thanks to you. Aren't you tired of fighting for me? Never, Sirius says savagely. Never, Reggie. I don't expect you to be able to do it again. To save me again. I don't want you to feel guilty when I die. I don't... I want you to be happy after I'm gone. Sirius makes a noise of distress. Regulus hears it inside his chest, almost like his heart breaking. I can't promise you that I'll be able to do that. But I can promise you that if I don't try, if I don't do anything I can to beat this, then I will never know peace again. I will hate myself for the rest of my days for having given up. Regulus peels himself away from his brother. They look at each other. Sirius's blue eyes and Regulus' mismatched ones, green and gray. There is a whole world in between them. A lifetime of being bad odds and breaking free of invisible chains. So I'm going to try, Sirius says. And if you hate me for it, I'll take it. I would rather face your anger than your absence, Reggie. I'm sorry if it bothers you, but I won't stop. I won't stop. Okay, Regulus whispers, nodding. Okay. James doesn't mention it. He talks about it briefly with Sirius a few days after it happens. I called Raphael today and he didn't want to talk to me, is what Sirius says. A little curious, only for James to reply, we broke up. Don't bother him. He leaves it at it. Remus asks him why, but he shakes his head, waves a hand. Don't worry about it. No point crying over spilled milk, he supposes. It's done, and all he can do is move on. Grapple with the guilt and shame he feels when he thinks of how he treated Raphael the last few months. He was doing so well, compartmentalizing his feelings for his best friend's brother, putting them all in a tiny box labeled Don't Open, and figuring out how to be an adult in the big world. This wasn't a 6-year fling with a boy in Ravenclaw. Raphael might have been falling in love with him if the loop in his mind's eye of their last few interactions is an indication of how badly James fucked up. But he isn't sorry. Not really. Raphael wasn't meant for him and he wasn't meant for Raphael. So he's ashamed of what he did, but not apologetic that he did it. It's a complicated thing, not easily sorted. Especially when he appears in Regulus's hospital room well after 8 p.m. He's aware this complicates it all that much more, and the box labeled Don't Open is very open indeed. More often than it's been in a long time. Hey Reg, he says, dropping the cloak from his shoulders and folding it on the edge of Regulus's hospital bed. How are you? Regulus doesn't look well. He hasn't in weeks. He's always been lean, but now he's terribly skinny. His cheekbones are sharper, his eyes a little sunken. The healers told Effie he's refusing his meals, but I don't know how to make him eat. All they can do is up his nutrition via the drip and hope that will sustain him long enough for someone to figure out what's wrong. Their hope rests in the Argentinian healer coming in a few weeks. They sent Regulus's record to him, a little of research completed by the American and Indian healers, and are hoping for something. Anything. At this point, James would be happy for someone to just say it, but it's always, let's try this next, and that's enough to keep the smallest kernel of hope alive in them all. Except for Regulus, who regards James with a defeated, barren look. I'm fine, he says, and James knows it's a lie. That's good, he replies anyway, leaning against the bed. How was dinner? Same as last week, so not great. Regulus pushes up his bed. He's so much weaker now. James remembers when his biceps and forearms were corded with lean muscle. A seeker's build with strength and agility he no longer possesses. What are we doing tonight? James planned for this. September will turn to October soon and bring cooler evenings with the change. Regulus is too thin and would require too many layers that might weigh down James's broom, but that doesn't mean he's without hope. Not yet. I thought we'd get out of here for a little, he says, grinning. He'll bring as much cheer as he can to this dreary hospital room, even if it takes all of his energy to do it. You haven't gone outside since the broom ride, have you? Regulus tongues his cheek and glances away. No. Knew it. Not sure if you forgot about this, but I can't really walk anywhere. Regulus gestures vaguely to his leg, still not meeting James's gaze. I doubt I'd be much good at getting on a broom. James planned for this too. He's been thinking about it all quite a lot the past few days, if he's honest. So he straightens, shakes out his whole body for dramatic effect, and declares, I'm carrying you. I'm sorry? I'm carrying you. Come on. Regulus's face pinches when James bends his knees, patting his shoulders for emphasis. What are you doing? Regulus whispers hisses. The healers will... I have a cloak. It will be fine. Get on. Sirius and I have done this before, and I promise it works. Something shifts in Regulus's expression. Is the shutter over a light James hadn't realized was there in the first place? He misses it, now that he notices it's gone. All right, but don't move. I might be heavy. Doubtful, James wants to say, but he remains quiet and stationary as Regulus shuffles to him. It takes Regulus a moment since his leg is a hindrance, but he's been without use of it long enough that he's managed to figure out how to move it out of his way. Regulus pauses with a hand between James's shoulder blades. How am I supposed to do this? Get closer to the edge. James, just get closer, you'll see. Regulus shuffles to the edge of his bed, all of his weight on one knee and his palms against James's shoulders. He yelps when James reaches back to hook hands behind his thighs, pulling him forward. Arms around my neck, Reg. Haven't you ever done this before? No, Regulus does, as James told him, though he seems hesitant to properly hold on. You gotta hold on, or I will drop you. I'll have to hold the cloak and your left leg, so I need a little assistance here. Regulus mutters, what the hell are we even doing? But he listens, arm tightening around James's neck and right leg squeezing a little tighter around his waist. Going out, James grabs the cloak and throws it over them both. Regulus ducks his head and whispers, they really can't see us under here. Do you ever see me when I show up? No. Then there's your answer. James adjusts the cloak so it covers his feet, then gets a good grip on Regulus's leg. Hold on the cloak, would ya? Just in case. And don't say anything. The cloak doesn't work with sound. Regulus grabs the fabric to keep it in place as James starts walking. He inches the door open, checks the corridor, and slips out into the dim hallway. He can hear healers at the main desk chattering away. This late at night, there isn't much for them to do except gossip. James has listened in a few times out of pure curiosity. At the end of the corridor is a door, and it's through that door James found a stairway leading right up to the roof. He's not sure if it's a loophole in the hospital's magic, considering it's worn as the department store exterior, but the first time he found it, he nearly leapt for joy. He'd meant to take Regulus here last week, but after everything that... No, he's not thinking about that. Not with Regulus clinging to him while he takes the stairs around and around to the top. There's no space here for all the other shit James has been dwelling on. Regulus doesn't deserve to have that laid on him along with everything else. "Where are we?" Regulus whispers in his ear when James flicks his wand at the door handle. "Is this part of St. Mungo's?" "I don't think so." James pushes the door open gently, and cool air hits them like a wall. He hadn't realized how warm it's insides of St. Mungo. "I think it's the original Muggle building." "Huh. Fascinating. Magical loophole, maybe?" Regulus huffs a soft laugh, and the breath against James's ear sends a slight shiver down his spine. "Leave it to you to find the magical loophole." "What can I say? I've had plenty of practice." They find a spot near the edge of the roof, and James sets Regulus down where they can lean against a small wall. He casts a quick warming charm around the space before settling down beside Regulus, who looks out over what little they can see from their spot. "The view isn't as good," James remarks, leaning back on to look up at the night sky. "But I thought, at the very least, it's fresh air." Fresh air, and a reminder that my life is more than four white walls. Regulus has to maneuver his left leg before he can stretch his right one out. He mirrors James's position's face turned up to the sky. "Thank you for this. I keep telling the healers a little fresh air would do me good, but I think they are afraid I will have an episode." "Have you had one since?" James doesn't want to remember the last time, when he watched Regulus cough blood all over his lap and full flowers into his hands. A scene is burned into his retinas, a nightmare that plagues him more often than he would like. No. Oh, that's good. I still cough up petals all of the time, but the full flowers are... I think they are specific to feelings, times, what I'm thinking about. Regulus closes his eyes, a soft smile on his lips when a breeze blows over the roof. It carries with it the grimmer smell of London, but Regulus doesn't seem to care. I haven't really figured it out yet, but sometimes I'm so anxious and nothing happens. Other times I'm not anxious at all and I spew a fucking flower garden. James chokes on a laugh, unable to stop it. "What? I do," Regulus mutters, shoving at him gently. "It's the most bizarre thing in the world. I'm basically a walking greenhouse, but only sometimes. I can't figure out the pattern. It's driving me mad." "You've always been good at puzzles." "I know, but maybe when I'm the puzzle, my brain wants nothing to do with the answer." James adjusts, pulls his knees to his chest and sets his elbows on them. He turns his head to watch Regulus, who still has his eyes closed, face to the sky. "You don't have to find the answer, Reg. That's what the healers are for. It's not your job." "They are not finding anything. Not yet. I'm not having this conversation with you two. I just had it with Sirius for once. I want to talk about something that isn't curse, disease, whatever." James exhales, a little frustrated, but he gets it. There's plenty he doesn't want to think about either. "Fine. What do you want to talk about then?" "Quidditch. How's the team shaping up?" "Oh, they are fine." James can hold back his surprise. Regulus hasn't wanted to talk about Quidditch much since the accident. Again, he gets it, but Quidditch is a comfortable place for him. It's far from the topic of feelings, good and bad. If Regulus suddenly wants to discuss the team, James will happily indulge him. "Our reserves are all right," but I think it will take some time to get them into proper shape. We might not be in a good position if one of our main players ends up injured. Regulus makes a non-committal noise. You guys practice a lot though, right? Surely they will pick up it sooner or later. The season is going well for you. At this, James can't help but wonder how much Sirius tells Regulus. The question feels pointed, though it might just be his own guilt at all of the missed practices. The get-together he's turned down in favor of apparating into Regulus's hospital room. He's distanced himself from the team, and considering Sirius is on a set team, James is fairly certain he's noticed the shift in behavior. But Regulus doesn't press the question. He waits. We practice all of the time, but there are some things out of our control. We might have had a bad batch of tryouts this year. You remember what it's like to be captain. Sometimes the picks are just all there is. Regulus shoots him a crooked grin, one eye cracked open. Slytherin never picked bad players. All our players were brilliant from the jump, even the reserves. You're lying. I'm not. You have to be. There were third years on your team. No third year is that good. Regulus lifts one shoulder in a half-hearted shrug. I was that good. Yeah, but you are, well, you're you. Nothing special about me, James. I was fast on a broom, that's all. Everything is special about you, he wants to say, but it always feels like the wrong time. His brain snags on I was, past tense, because Regulus is none of what he was now. In his eyes, anyway, he's withering away all of his talents and passions lost the moment he fell from that broom. James wants to shake him, to tell him none of those things matters because they aren't what truly make up Regulus Arcturus Black, not to the people who love him, and especially not to James. He wants to say it, to let it fall between them and see what happens, but Regulus's eyes are closed again, squeezed tightly shut, and he's pulled a wobbly lip between his teeth. He's trying not to cry. James recognizes the expression on Regulus's face. Sirius makes a very similar one. Too much emotion, all of it piled up like a too tall stick of books. And who is James to make this worse? To add more to that pile of things Regulus has to sort through. He's got enough on his shoulders. The sickness or curse or whatever it is, his failed Quidditch ambitions, the way his body is breaking a bit more every day. It's already too much for one person to deal with. So James forces his voice to remain even and breaks the silence with something light-hearted. Are there any books you want me to bring by next time I come? Haven't been to Flourish and Blots in a bit. Or that Muggle one you like. What is it again? Regulus' shoulders visibly relax, sagging with relief. He sniffs. James pretends it's from the cold. Waterstones. I think there's one nearby, actually. Oh, perfect. I'll pop in if you want me to. I haven't brought you any new books in a while. Just like that, the air is light again. Regulus talks animatedly about a new Muggle series he's been reading. The book sounds long and complicated. Political, too. James tries to follow, to map the character names in his head, but it's more confusing than a pure-blood family tree. He can barely keep it all straight. Regulus doesn't seem to mind, though. He's bright-eyed, talking with his hands, and that's I'm a little pissed off, though, he says when he's done summarizing the second book for James. The author is taking ages to write the next one. It's been years. I'm probably going to die before he ever finishes it. Should I send him a note? Tell him to get a move on it? James's chest aches. He opens his mouth to reply, to joke about how sending an note to a Muggle would terrify them. But all that comes out is, I'll read it. When it comes out, I'll read it. What? Oh, you don't have to. It's so long and messy, it's probably not your cup of tea. I've been blabbering on for ages about it when... I'll read it, Reg. For you. He forces his lips to pull up at the corners, even if he doesn't quite feel it. Will you let me borrow the first one? Though I think I might have to take notes while I read. This sounds more complicated than transfiguration. Regulus fidgets his hand in his lap. He's smiling, and the light is still in his eyes. You managed to turn yourself into an animagus. I think you can handle a silly muggle fantasy story without taking notes. But yeah, I'll let you borrow mine. It's in my room. James hates that my room is now a reference not to his room at the Maina, but at his room here at St. Mungo's. 4 white walls, minimal decorations, and hardly any character at all. It breaks James's heart to take him back to it, but he does. Even with his warming charms, the rooftop is too cold after a while. Here, Regulus says when he's settled back in bed. He passes James a worn mass market paperback. Don't let the size of it scare you. It's really good. A bit slow at first, but it will get better. You know what they say, James quips, palming the heavy book. Size isn't everything. He looks up to find Regulus blushing fiercely clear to the tips of his ears. He coughs, adjusting where he lies against his pillows, and won't meet James's eyes. Frankly, James is glad he won't because now he's blushing. Flirting? Now? He hadn't meant to, it really had just slipped out. But he's hot from the embarrassment from how uncomfortable Regulus looks. Idiot, he thinks, holding tight to the book on his hand. Idiot, idiot, idiot. Right, he says awkwardly, clearing his throat. He shifts on his feet, snatches the cloak. Merlin, he's never blundered this badly in his life. Get some sleep, Reg, and I will get back with more books. Good night. Good night, James, Regulus says, his voice quiet. Thanks for the fresh air. James's brain is still spinning a mantra of idiot, 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 so he merely smiles, replies, anytime, and throws the cloak over his head. He apparates away with a sharp crack, Regulus's book tucked snug and safe under his arm.